Conservation Commission meeting of March 19th, 2025. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our first item are the minutes of February 19th. Are there edits or changes, or?
I did not receive any edits or comments for that one.
Yeah, I was fine, yep.
In that case, I move to approve the minutes as written for February 19th, 2025. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we don't have the 3/5s yet?
No, not
No.
yet.
Okay. Okay. We have two continuations, and since they are the first two public hearings, I will just do those now. SE 423125, 17 Oregon Road, has requested to continue to April 2nd. I move that we continue then. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And the SE 423130, 80 Union Street, I move also to grant the request for continuation to April 4th. A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that brings us to SE 3045 amended, which is 11 Constellation Road. And the hearing officer, let me read the legal ad. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025, to consider the amended order of conditions for 11 Constellation Road. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Mike, can you verify administrative?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay, Mr. Savant, the floor is
Good
yours.
evening, Rick Savant with Beck and Taylor. I don't know if you may recall this project, we were here almost 3 years ago now. We had these, the deck shown in blue on the plans were, the new deck is on the beach side, and there's an existing deck on the Constellation Road side that they're gonna reconstruct in the same footprint. None of this work has taken place since we got this approved. The applicant has, before doing the project, has decided they'd like to amend the orders with this proposed squaring off of the deck of a 100 square foot area to make the deck more accessible around the house. The previous approval was for a deck on helical screws. This will also be, the same type of support. The project is, located in the flood zone, right on the beach, right on the seawall. Shouldn't say the beach, it's right adjacent to the seawall. And essentially, that's what we wanted to amend. The orders is still current. It does expire in about 3 months. So we're gonna have to think about an extension for this, but it is still active. And I remember from the last hearing that the discussion was there's some beach grass out there in that area, in and around where this deck is, and we agreed that anything that had to be, was in the area of the deck would be transplanted, adjacent to the deck or in that area. So I was out there earlier, took a look. There is definitely a little small portion of grass that will be possibly disrupted by this extension that I was hoping we could just fall under the last kind of agreement that anything that needs to be, transplanted certainly will. And there's another section on the front of the house too that would need to be transplanted. So that's what we were hoping to do.
Okay, thank you. Mike, your comments?
Yes, this addition to the deck here, as you can see up on the screen, would just connect the two decks that were previously approved, one facing the street, Constellation Road, and one facing the seawall. It's proposed to be supported by helical piles, which is consistent to the rest of the decking, which was approved under the original order of conditions.
Okay. Only question I had, Rick, where are the stairs gonna be?
So the stairs, the only set of stairs that I'm aware of is the one on the Constellation Road side. It's where the existing stairs are now.
Okay, so by squaring off the deck, you're eliminating the blue color?
There was a proposed stairway there that they,
Okay, that's,
according to the architectural plans, is, yep, going away.
okay. Commissioners, any comments?
I was just gonna ask about the stairs.
No comments from commissioners? Is there anybody in the public like make any comments on this? Okay, Mike, we've already got existing conditions. You would add on about the planting? That
Yes, I can
already
add a
existed?
condition regarding the beach grass replacement, and then it would just be the same order of conditions aside from that extra condition.
Okay, very good. In that case, I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second.
Second is Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, Mike?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Rick. Okay. Next is 32 Grotto Road, which, this is a continued hearing, and I believe it was largely completed at the last meeting. However, the taxes had not been confirmed. So, unless anyone has anything new to add, or Mike, do you have anything new to add?
Not particularly.
In that case, I would move to, what do we have? It's an RDA. So I would move to issue a determination of applicability with a +5 and a -2. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And next up is 257 Dyke Road. This is a new hearing. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, March 19th, 2025, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by the Green Harbor Yacht Club. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Mike, can you confirm administrative taxes?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay, thank you. Gentlemen?
Okay,
Like
my
to
name
present?
is Kevin McGuire, and I'm a member of the Green Harbor Yacht Club, and with me is Paul DeFreitas, and he is the secretary, and over there is Kevin Collins, who is the commodore of the yacht club. So what we're proposing to do is asking to add some additional finger floats inside the reconfiguration zone. Excuse me, they're pointing towards the land. They're not heading out towards the channel. And they are shown in red, and there's 5 of them. There's 2, Mike, if you would, up top. There's 2 of them up there. One's for the dinghy docks, and then there's another which would be for additional boats. And then as you come down that tree and take a left, there's 3 more that are down there. 2 of those for additional slips, and one of them is for the club's sailing program. I have to point out to you that's not included in our request, is if we could go back up to the top, Mike, up where the dinghy dock is, On that same side, as you coming along, there are 3 additional floats, and their size is 3 feet. Come on down, keep on coming down, right there, those 3 floats. Their sizes shown on that plan, 3 feet by 20, but when we went out and measured everything up, after the weather got a little warmer from when we did it in January, we found that those floats had been replaced, and they were 39 inches wide rather than 3 feet, so each float increased in size by 3 inches. So it's a total of 15 square feet additional that we would be asking over the 372 square feet that we're asking right now for the increase. We're asking for a request for a determination of applicability. Excuse me again. And the reason we went in that direction is that a while back, we had worked on a float up on the North River, and the applicant had received all of his permits for a 10 by 20 float. And he bought a larger sized boat, and that float wasn't sufficient to hold it. So he came before the commission and he asked for a 10 by 20 finger float. And the commission granted the request for a request for a determination of applicability. And basically the reason, my understanding is, I was not at the hearing, is that their jurisdictional authority really didn't reach out into the river. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. The applicant later on came back to the board and asked for a modification to that, and decided to use a 4-foot by 20-foot long finger float. And that's the justification for our filing for the determination of applicability. The reason that we're before the board, and we also had to go to conservation, is that we have to file for what they call as an amended Chapter 91 license. And in order for them to approve it, we have to get something in writing, which would be the certificates that the planning board and the building department issue after conservation and the Board of Appeals approves the project. So that's where we're at.
That it?
There aren't, excuse me, there aren't any additional piles that we're adding.
Right.
It simply floats. And the ironic part about the whole thing is if the floats weren't attached to the main float system, we had a little space, it bottom anchored them, we'd go to the harbor master. So it's just really a minute amount of change. That's with the reconfigurations, within the reconfigurations.
Okay, thank you. Mike, your comments?
Yes, so as was stated, there is a proposed 6-foot by 20-foot sailboat ramp, 2 proposed 3-foot by 20-foot finger floats, a 3-foot by, well, there's an additional 3-foot by 20-foot finger float, and then a 6-foot by 12-foot dinghy float as part of the proposed additional floats. As Mr. McGuire has stated, there are no additional piles associated with this project. This reconfigurement of fingers needs a modified Chapter 91 permit.
Okay, have we got comments from the harbor master yet?
I have not received written comments from the harbor master.
Yes, if I could, I met with the harbor master regarding this project, and he had a few things that, concerned him, namely, the number one thing, that we weren't encroaching, if you could see in the bottom of the plan where it says tree float big, that those floats weren't encroaching out into the channel setback. That's a 6-foot deep federal channel there. So by regulation, you have to be 3 times the depth of the channel, which is 18 feet back. When we laid this thing out early on, we stayed 21 feet back. His concerns were that maybe the piles, he wants to make sure that the piles, the outside edge of the piles are within that setback. And we will be doing a full survey out there for the Chapter 91 license, and at that point, we will know exactly how far back they are. But we feel pretty confident that they are where they're shown on the plan.
Well, nothing that you're in for tonight is a change that's any closer to the channel than what's already existing, right?
Right.
Everything's further back.
Yeah.
And it's all within the existing reconfiguration zone.
Okay, and I did watch when you went in front of the ZBA. Apparently, these finger piers were already in place. You didn't realize they weren't, that you needed additional permitting?
If I could just touch on that a little bit. With this general area here in Marshfield, over the years, we've done 4 reconfiguration zones at the marinas. One is the marina next door at the Brewer Marina, and the Yacht Club, and then the Marshfield Yacht Club and the Bridgeway Inn. And the reconfiguration zone allows the person managing the marina to move the floats around, and everybody kind of misunderstands that. So the Yacht Club added floats, thinking it was the proper thing to do. And we got a call from DEP and asked if we were still involved in working with the Yacht Club, and said that they had added some finger floats, they got a complaint, and they're gonna send out an enforcement order. But before they do that, if you would talk to them and see if they'd remove the floats, and if they want them, then they have to come back in for an amended license. So we mentioned it to the Yacht Club, and they immediately took the floats out.
Which we did,
Which we did.
right away.
So we're kind of hoping that we can get through this. So they lost, some of the boaters lost their slips last summer, so we're kind of hoping we can get through this process so they can put them back in this year.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit of context to what Kevin was saying, is that also when we said that we had put them in, they were in a while prior to even us being on the board, so they have been there for quite some time inside of that reconfiguration zone.
So my only experience with the reconfiguration zone is when Brewer did the Green Harbor Marina. And as I understood it, you get a set number of the berths or spaces for boats, and you can move it around, as long as you're not changing the position of piles, you can do what you want. So what number of slips do you?
It's Chapter 91 charges for tidewater occupation and tidewater displacement. They charge money for that. So they're into the square footage. So this was a square footage increase, so they want their money. That's basically it. I mentioned early on to Mike, I think, in one of the order of conditions we got, I think it was 1650. You listed the number of boats, there at 39. The Board of Appeals and the assessors, another one of Mr. DeMayo's concerns were that the town was getting their fair share of the costs of, the tax costs for the boats in there, and he wanted a list that we provided the town assessor for the people that had the boats in there, so they could assess them proper amounts for the use. He has them at 42, and the Board of Appeals has the number of boats in there at 46. So that's another thing we'd like to do, is have that order of conditions changed. That number's some 39. Where that came from, I don't know. Maybe somebody sat there and counted them. We'd like to increase that up to the 46 that the Board of Appeals has. The way this the float layout is now, there will be 42 boats there.
Okay.
And one of the boats is associated with their sailing program. They need a boat to tow the sailboats out into the river, and it's a general maintenance boat that they keep there.
Right. And we submitted what we had given to the assessors, and it was a total of 43, one being for the sailing program that we use.
And how is the length of your boats? Do you have a limit on length of boat and the slips, or are they all the same, or?
They're
You know,
different.
I belong to Marshfield, and we have a
Oh, okay.
23-foot limit.
Yeah.
Are you something similar, or
It's the same.
same?
I'm Brian Scott, Marshall Street, Marshall. Yeah, it's 23 and under for the inside slips.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about anything bigger than that. I guess really getting down to the conservation issues is the depth of water in that float area. That's on your plan,
Um,
and,
The harbor master also wanted to make sure that we had 2.5 feet underneath the end of each finger float. And that survey, when we submit it to DEP, will show that we have. The yacht club recently, and we
Dredged.
filed the papers with conservation region, we recently dredged that whole area. So there's ample water out there, but it's not shown on that plan.
okay, so that's gonna be resurveyed, and
Yeah,
if there's any issue there,
yeah,
you'll have to resolve that.
yeah.
Okay. I'd like to open it up to the rest of the commission. Questions, comments?
A question, are these gonna be in the water all year round or taken out?
My ears are as plugged as my throat is.
Will they be in the water all year round or taken out during the
The
winter?
floats?
Yeah,
No, they stay there year-round,
okay.
yeah.
Anyone else?
And I'll point out again, there are no additional no additional
Piles.
piles.
Correct.
And inside that reconfiguration zone, you can pull a pile out and move it, but you can't increase the number.
Okay,
And I don't know if they've gotten fussy enough that if you have a 10-inch pile, you gotta keep it a 10-inch pile. I don't know if they've gotten that far.
okay. Nothing further from the commission. Anybody in the public wish to comment? Yes, sir?
Hello, my name is Colin Bono. I live at 12 Careswell Street. I'm a direct abutter to the Green Harbor Yacht Club, and I'm currently going through the process of obtaining my Chapter 91 license. I'm concerned that the further expansion by the yacht club will impede my ability to exercise my rights to construct a pier. I currently have a zoning board approval for my proposed project, as that is what I was told to do, get that first. I believe that the yacht club should also have to go through the zoning board before the Conservation Commission makes a decision, due to the fact that this is a commercial property that has seen multiple expansions over the years. The proposed addition is in excess of Marshfield's Conservation Commission's pier performance standards for the number of floats and square footage, since yacht clubs are subject to the same standards as private piers. So they're talking about reconfiguring, and with their Chapter 91 license, it's been referenced the 10% rule, to add 10%, and that is a threshold, not a set allowance by the DEP. And based on publicly available information with the Registry of Deeds, so far as I can tell, it would appear that the additions are in excess of that. And I can't find any document that states the allowed square footage under the current license other than the publicly available plans with the Registry of Deeds. Can the Conservation Commission show any plan or document showing the approved square footage in order to determine accurately what the proposed square footage increase percentage is?
Mr. McGuire, can you
Would you
answer?
like- What, you want me to respond to that, or respond to that?
Yeah, I assume we'd have to go back to the plan that
Yeah.
was originally approved, which was the plan in front of us, correct?
You were provided with an as-built plan, and my former boss passed away, John Capacephalo, a professional engineer, New England Engineering, wrote a letter to the board, to all of the agencies, and the total square footage that was finally built through the permits was
Is that everything? Kevin?
3,500,
88?
3,555.8 square feet. The 10% rule that this gentleman's referring to is that on a Chapter 91 license, if you are under 10% of the square footage of the structure, you can ask for a modification as opposed to an amendment. We're slightly over the 10%. We're like 32 feet over this 10% with this new layout, and with the additional 39-inch wide floats. We talked to DEP, and we could have easily removed one of those floats to get within that 10%. And basically, they got absolutely nowhere with them. They simply said to file an amended license. We're not considering a 10% increase, so that's basically by the board. And again, that's a Chapter 91 thing. It's not an Army Corps thing, and thus I have no idea. It's not a conservation thing. Not that I'm saying you can't, do what you expect you should do, but it's not, I don't see it in any regulations.
Okay, so you are going for an amended Chapter 91?
We're
so
going
that-
for an amended Chapter 91
that-
license. It wouldn't be a 10% modification.
Okay,
And that's been made pretty clear to the club and to me by DEP.
okay, I think that answers that part. The other question I remember you asking is yacht clubs versus private docks. I don't recall an exact regulation for that, but all our dock regulations are regulations that we recently modified, were all based on residential docks. Clearly, this is not a residential dock. I'm familiar with the other marinas and yacht clubs that we've permitted, and they all have multiple docks.
I read the performance standards for the Marshfield Conservation Commission pier section. It specifically says yacht clubs are subject to the same performance standards as private piers. They're classified as private piers.
Mike, can you look that up?
Yeah, you
Is
can pull that up
available?
right now.
When we drafted, well, when we voted on the revision to those regs, we were thinking only of residential. I'm curious to see what Mike comes up with, because clearly you cannot limit a marina to one 10 by 20-foot float. That makes no sense.
Right.
So,
I should, if I could, as far as that reconfiguration zone, it was approved by Conservation and the Board of Appeals in their applicable permits. And the finger floats that they're proposing are on the main float line, tree float number B and C. And they're not, and they are heading towards land, but they're not anywhere near the edge of the reconfiguration zone that's set aside for the use of the marina.
No, the only ones I can see that would be closer would be up,
The dinghy dock.
the dinghy dock towards the club.
Maybe Brian could explain what the dinghy dock is.
Yeah, what's the size limit on dinghies?
So there's a 6-foot limit, it's basically rolling dories, so some of the members hold moorings out in the river. So they get in the dinghy, they row out, they bring their boat to the courtesy dock and load up passengers and supplies and whatnot.
Oh, okay, that's
So, if it's,
6-foot dinghy, that's pretty small.
yeah, it's just like a rowing
Yeah,
skiff. And, if it comes down to square footage, we could go without that.
Any progress there, Mike?
Yes, our dock regulations are about 7 pages long, so I'm just trying to find, sift through these quickly. I do see that, I'll share this on the screen. 1 second.
Can I approach real quick?
Sure.
Just in case if you guys, I know you, if you didn't have this in a bigger, I know you were looking at the screen, but I had printed.
Yeah, we had a big version.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, the colors help.
Yeah, just in case,
Thank
that
you.
makes it sure.
And the preamble, section A, number 2, the purpose of these regulations is to establish performance standards for private docks and piers. However, when you go down to the actual performance standards here, it does specifically state certain requirements for land zoned as residential, and others don't necessarily point to residential restrictions. Like, for example, the number of floats, like, dock decking shall be no wider than 48 inches. That just pertains broadly to docks and piers on private property, as does float stops are prohibited, et cetera, et cetera. Essentially only.
Yeah, so there's no verbiage that says yacht clubs come under residential.
I
just pulled it up.
Well, it's right
Good night.
there too.
It says, water-dependent structure accessory to a residential use, but shall include yacht club, association, and community piers, and any other non-commercial government pier is a private pier. And by your definition, that's a private pier.
But this is a commercial pier.
This is a it says yacht club.
We're zoned in a commercial.
You're in a, you're not,
It-
you're in a
it's-
commercial area.
Yeah.
It's not
It's not
residential.
a residence.
It's
Nobody
residential.
lives there,
No.
so.
No. Our regs, and we'll clearly have to go over them with a fine tooth comb and have Attorney Galvin confirm this. They were specifically intended for residential property zoned as residential.
Okay. Well, that aside, is there a document that I can see if there's a square footage established from the DEP? And if they're amending the Chapter 91 license, could we get a
That's
NOI?
really not the purview of the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
That would,
But an NOI in this instance?
If I could, when we do go for the amended license, we have to do the same steps as if it was a new license. And part of that, and I mentioned before, square footage is the big thing with Chapter 91. We have to notify the abutters, and you're an abutter, Mr. Mono would be getting a copy of the plan and the square footage and the letter and all of that information at that particular point. If the club's willing, I can meet them over there, and we can take the measuring tape out and measure up exactly what's there, and we're gonna come out with 3,555.8 square feet.
Yeah, so Mr. McGuire gave you that number. That's from the approved as-built plan, so.
And when we did do the ask for the certificate of compliance from the agencies, that's the amount, that square footage. We did have a little wrinkle from the original float layout way back when, not to muddy the waters here, but the club got a good deal on a 35-foot cast iron ramp instead of a 30-foot. And it sank the original float size that they were gonna use. So we had to readjust the size of that float, and they lost the finger float on the main float, the main tree going out because of the weight of that ramp and the length of it. So we had to readjust the proposed square footage at that time, but it was all approved. The new square footage was approved by DEP. They had to put a little 8.5 by 10-foot float along the main float where the ramp sat on in order to keep it buoyant. So if you go through the information, you'll come across that and might not quite understand what it was for, but that was the reason. That's the deal they got on on the rim.
So in the documentation that we shared, the package documentation, and I think to the commission as well, it should, I can't, unfortunately, it's very small. But on Plan 1, this is the as-built plan, 2010.
The as-built plan? Yes.
Yeah.
2010.
10, yeah. And you just can see, I can't see if it,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we're pretty sure we submitted that.
I'll pull it up on
That
the
is
screen
the
right now.
as-built plan right there. 'Cause we added the finger floats to the as-built
Yeah,
plan.
just, yeah, as a,
Is that an as-built or what was approved?
There are always, I'll answer them, I'll respond to them.
Yeah, the as-built is what's in front of us, so that's what we have.
The plan is proposed. Along the way, no matter what you're building, there are gonna be changes. And that's, if they're significant, then go back to the agency and talk to them. If they're insignificant, usually a phone call works, and we will provide what the changes are in the as-built plan, in the as-built, in the request for the certificate of compliance.
I understand
Yeah,
that
so
that's the
excuse
Sorry.
me. Once again, it was, the plan was approved in 2010, the work was done, and the COC was issued in 2019, is that correct?
Well, that was for the reconfiguration zone and the maintenance dredging,
Okay,
yeah.
So
It had two orders
everything-
of conditions.
so from 2010
yeah.
to 2019,
Yeah.
everything was found in order, and nothing had, and at that time, those extra finger piers were in place.
Yeah.
But it's since been noted that you need to get approval for those.
Right.
So I think we have a pretty clear understanding of what's going on here. So we answered two of your questions. Was there anything else you had questions on?
I would like to have a condition in there that if any floats are removed, that they not be stored on the salt marsh, particularly on my land, because I've had an issue with that in the past. And it's a fragile ecosystem. I would just like that.
Well,
to be
I
noted.
think clearly you have the right to not have somebody else's property stored on your land.
I would think, but I've had an issue with it.
Would
that's.
anybody from the yacht
We
club?
don't have an issue with that.
They're being stored in the water. They're not being removed.
So they're not gonna come out at all?
No.
That's right. you already
Perhaps,
said that.
maybe referring to the finger floats that were removed, but they were stored. There's a boat ramp on the property, right up by the clubhouse. See it, and those finger floats I saw them when they took them out. I don't know if they're still there. They were stored at the top of that boat ramp.
Either way, to
They're
your
never
point.
on the marsh.
Either way, to your point, Mr. O'Donnell, we we would not plan on putting our property on Mr. Bono's property.
Understood. In that case, are there any further comments from the public? I mean, I don't think that's a condition that we even need to make. There's no reason they should put anything on your property. I hear nothing else from the public.
Could I just ask if we need to have comments from the harbor master before we?
Well, we didn't really go by the float guideline, the dock guidelines, because this was a DOA.
Should
Right.
have brought a copy of that. I didn't.
Oh, right.
Maybe I,
With
no.
the float guidelines?
No, with
Do
the harbor
do
master.
you feel we need them?
Yeah.
I don't think we do. I just don't
Yeah.
want to make a procedural.
This right here?
Yeah,
Kara?
if we could give this to you, the harbor master did comment. I don't know why it didn't go to conservation.
Did we get that, Mike?
Not to my knowledge. I can see if there's a letter in there. I got the letter to the harbor master from the applicant, but
Oh.
nothing in response.
He just sent it
Just back to you.
to me.
Well, if you could let us take a look at that.
I will give you,
They can have that,
you can
yeah.
have this,
Okay, I'll pass it around.
and we can go item by item, because I did go over and we did sit down with the harbor master. And the very first one is what he had alluded to on the setbacks from the federal channel. And then we also touched on one of the items there as far as to make sure that I think he's looking for 2.5 feet of water underneath the bottom of each finger float. And then the assessor's records. And then he was looking for some sort of a plan on what the dinghy dock the construction of the dinghy dock and the construction of the sailing program dock.
Oh, what they would be.
They would
Yeah.
just basically dock.
Actually, I'll read these into
Okay.
the public so that we
Sure.
get it out here to everybody. This is from Mike DeMayo, Harbor Master. He's looking for additional information. The channel setbacks from points, it's got latitude and longitude here, basically distance in feet. That'll be resolved when you do the survey, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
And that shouldn't affect what's in front of us tonight. Number of vessels currently authorized on the Chapter 91 license, we spoke about that.
Yeah, they don't, 91 doesn't authorize vessels, again,
Square footage.
Square footage.
Okay. Proof of delivery of the current vessel list, which again, you spoke about that. That's
provided
more
that.
for the assessors.
Yep, yep.
Design of the sailboat setup float, is it different from,
he was interested in the use, and Mike, if you would show it's at the very end of tree float number C.
Yes.
It's a 6 by 20, no, come on now.
Yeah, the bottom right where, the
Yeah, there you go.
triangle there section.
Yeah, right there. What happens is there's 4 sailboats, and they belly up side by side, right on the bottom of that, yes, right there, 4 sailboats. And what they do is they bring their gear out and store their gear on that 6 by 20 foot wide finger float, so they can safely load the gear and whatever else they need
Right.
into the sailboats. Now, on the other side of that finger float is their workboat. That's also included in the assessor's list. That stays there, and then when they're all loaded and everybody's safely tucked away in the sailboats, he comes out and he tows them out, and then reverse when he brings them back in again.
and those are the sailboats that are used for sailing lessons?
The sailing program, yes.
And the rec department sponsored sailing lessons?
Correct.
Very good. Additional pilings, the answer to that was no. Most current pre- and post-dredge surveys, you're gonna complete a new survey?
Just around the vicinity of the ends of the finger floats. He says that's all he's interested in, he is interested in.
And shellfish mitigation?
Well, if you go on the shellfish map, GIS shellfish map, the area is prohibited shellfishing, Green Harbor River is. So he will be looking for mitigation.
Yeah, I
To
think
enhance the shellfish beds
there-
elsewhere.
there's a fee for that, even up the North River where there's
Yeah.
no shellfish,
Yeah.
still do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the current town assessors deed maps and parcel IDs.
Right, yeah, we provided that.
So I think
Yeah,
we've
no,
got
that's-
satisfactory answers to all that. At this point, I'd make a motion to issue the DOA with a +5 and a -2, and Any special conditions we need, Mike?
Yes, I would suggest that to ensure that best management practices are followed before commencement of work, obtain all pertinent permits, and to seek the conservation administrator or agent for guidance on work beyond the approved work activities, and that also a final depth survey is provided to the Concom when it's ready.
Okay. And to emphasize, all further permitting, including flood permit, I think you're in the process
Yeah.
of doing that?
We've gotten the floodplain permit.
Yeah, and
We
we're,
have that.
we have the
Okay.
requirements.
Just one other item, it's in that order of conditions, back in, I think, '06. You limited 30, boats, 39 boats, so we're gonna put that up to 46 boats.
Okay, there's nothing within our regs that,
Yeah, but, okay, all right.
so if I get a second,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our hearings. We have a new business item, and that is the Recreation Trails Committee Mountain Bike Race.
Hi, how you doing? Jeff Wilson, 26 Noel Road, Marshfield. And Ned Bangs, 210 Woodlawn Circle, Marshfield.
Okay, you want to,
Yeah, this is the race that was we postponed it because of ice conditions. So since then, we want to move it to March 30th, and then we capped the limit of people from, I think last time it might have been higher, near 80 or 100. I think we capping it now at 36, and we usually have a 10 to 15% no-show rate. So it's going to be a small race.
okay. And, yeah, I think did we already discuss this race?
So this
or-
is the one at Webster Wilderness?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It's 2-mile course.
Yeah.
Some will do 3 laps, some will do 2 laps, the kids.
I have no issues with this. Does anybody else have anything? Or Mike, do you have,
No, I think that this race will be a great opportunity for NEMBA and also Recreation Trails Committee. Hopefully some people might join and get to enjoy the trails that they work so hard to maintain.
yeah?
I actually went and did a lot of trail work out there before, and I know RTC did too. And then me and Mark went out and did a lot, just trimming and stuff like that, cut some deadfall stuff over your head
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I would move to approve the mountain bike race on March 30th. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I hope you don't have ice conditions on the 30th.
Just a general question while you're here.
Yep.
All this wind lately, have you seen much damage?
Yeah,
on the
we
trails?
actually, the pine trees seem this year more branches than fallen over, but we have I probably removed about 15 deadfall off the trees between the watershed and there. So there's a group of 4 or 5 mountain bikers, and then Dave Bolio, he'll let me know, here's a tree down here. I'm like,
Yeah.
cut it, Dave. You don't have time to get it worked, but they
My
let me
neighbor.
know. We actually have an app that the president of NIMBA made. It's called Trail Care. So it works by GPS. So if I'm out in the woods,
Ah,
someone can it'll show you your location. You can hit it and take a picture of the tree. So that way I know, am I coming out with a handsaw? Am I coming out with a little electric saw or a gas saw, because you don't want to show up. And then me and Mark Scholar are the administrators for this area. So once it's cleared, we can clear it off the app that it's been cleared. So any user that looks at it can tell, okay, that was cleared.
right, that's clear now.
The person that reported it also, they can see it too.
Nice.
Well, just glad to hear there isn't more damage. I
Yeah.
don't remember a year with wind like this.
The wind has been pretty relentless.
Oh, the winds, it's a lot of branches, believe me. I
Yeah.
spent 35 minutes on a half-mile trail the other day. I was riding my bike, then I ended up, like, I'll just ride and pick up, then it was like, yeah, I just had to walk
Yeah.
it. My bike picking up, just bigger, seems like a lot of pine branches, not too many pines now.
Yeah, a lot of
We had
over
all the
50
high-
mile an
all the
hour
high-
wind.
That
Yeah.
we counted 165 back in, I think it was, I say it was 21 maybe, right around there, 21. We had 165 big trees. There was a big oak down off the bridle trail. I cut that. That took me a little bit to cut that.
Yeah.
Probably 120-year-old white oak. Big trees. That was pretty bad. It got to the point where I went online and told like the mountain bike group, hey, I'm gonna cut these logs into pieces, but, because for me to cut them and then stop and then push them, it's a lot of work. So I'd
Yeah.
be going like from bridle trail all the way up, clearing logs. And I'm like, you guys can move them, I'm just gonna leave them, 'cause I can move quicker. It was the difference of doing 4 trees versus like 12. There was
Yeah.
that many that I didn't have, I was at first picking them up, then I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go and someone's gonna move this, and put it up there. And they did, they rolled them off. I made them rollable. That's how big the trees were, you couldn't just pick them up.
Well, I hope you have a good day for the race.
Oh, yeah, hopefully.
We'll send you some pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll put up pictures. Of Ned riding a bike. Bring my bike for you.
Okay, and we have one old business item concerning the unpermitted, vegetation management that was done on Dyke Road last summer. Is Mr. McCarthy here? I think not. Oh, you are here. I'm sorry. So, we have a situation where you cut and you didn't have the proper permits. So, in the meantime, the town has instituted a vegetative management plan for this whole area. Henceforth, the DPW will be charged with managing that area. But we need some kind of mitigation for the fact that you went in there without telling anyone or without any eyes on it previous to your cutting. So we don't even really know what was there, what got cut. So I would like to propose that you plant 4 eastern red cedars in that space. We will allow the rest of it to revegetate naturally. We'll see what comes back. I suspect it's going to be a whole lot of invasives, but whatever it is, it will now be under the vegetative management plan, and the DPW will do whatever is necessary going forward. Are you amenable to that?
May I speak on behalf of Mr. McCarthy before deciding on this?
Would you give us your name and address, please?
Madeline Daly, MacArthur Lane. Thank you. So I was involved in this meeting the last time, and thank you for stating that there were some measures put in place, because that was part of what I wanted to say tonight. So I'm just going to go through what I have to say and hope that you take it into consideration. So I believe the situation is a learning opportunity for all of us. This area in town had not been properly maintained by the appropriate government departments, leading to overgrowth that became both an eyesore and a nuisance. And this was in a high foot traffic area. In addition to the overgrowth, there was no visible signs from the DEP marking the area as protected. Without proper signage, how could anyone known that there was protected plants there? And considering the extent of the overgrowth, it is entirely possible that those plants had already been smothered long before any clearing took place. moving forward, and you address some of these issues, I just want to add in some more. I feel we can take steps to ensure that this doesn't happen again. The Conservation Committee should look at proper education and guidelines for volunteers. The Trails Committee should implement training for anyone working near protected areas. And clear communication should be established amongst all parties, including these spaces. The past meeting minutes confirm that there was a miscommunication between Mr. Bangs and Mr. McCarthy. But was this Mr. McCarthy's fault? No. Was it his fault that the residents had repeatedly called for this area to be addressed and cleaned up, and it wasn't? No. Was it his fault that there was no signs indicating protected plants? No. Mr. McCarthy is a veteran who has served his country and in retirement wished to continue to serve his community as a volunteer. He acted in good faith, and this situation is not a burden of his to bear, in my opinion. Instead of placing blame, I think this is a learning opportunity to put proper procedures in place, ensuring that both our volunteers and our protected areas are respected moving forward. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. I will refer you to our website where we have posted the vegetative management plan.
Thank you.
And it's all on there, and you can read through, and anything that will be happening going forward, the commission will be aware of. And I ask you to take a look at that so that you understand what we plan. And to the point of markers, it's a good idea to put markers along the sidewalk there.
I think
Okay.
in a public area, it should, a high-traffic area,
Mhm.
definitely should have markers.
Yeah, that's easy enough.
Yeah, we can definitely
Just
install some
That
some markers
stretch
in
right
that
there
area.
along Dyke Road.
Yep.
But, yes, if you would agree to plant some cedars,
I would be happy to plant them, I was very happy to do a lot of stuff over there that the entire area wanted done. And again, I guess, where I'm really confused here is you said, I did this without a permit. So, but here I am working for 3 years with the Trail Advisors, a town-sponsored organization. I was in communication with my leadership there, and due to some confusion between Ned and I exactly where I was, I don't know.
I
You know, I
know.
think it's ludicrous. I worked my butt off there. I truly did. I went through hell. I was sweated like a dog. I got cuts, scratches, poison ivy. I had to go to the doctor for treatment twice. And then I come here and I'm vilified for volunteering my time.
I understand that you do a lot for the town and you volunteer, and there was clearly a miscommunication or a lack of communication regarding trimming the edge of the sidewalk and versus, going back as far as you did.
Right, because the sidewalk was literally unpassable.
I understand that, and.
And I started cleaning that up, then I went back to do the gazebo area because you couldn't get at it. And people asked me to do that, and the mothers walking by with the carriages and stuff asked me to trim that. So I trimmed it back, and then I go back to there, and then I come back, and it's already overgrown 2 weeks later. It's like, well, let's just get rid of the briars. And that's basically what I did. But anyways, I'm fine. I'm up. Where am I supposed to get these plants?
I get them at Lowe's.
I'm sorry?
Lowe's?
Eastern red cedars are typically in stock at most nurseries.
Almost any big
And
box.
what's the
stores.
ballpark on what those cost? Because I'm still aghast at all this. I was expecting an attaboy for this stuff. I killed myself doing that.
Well,
And people feel it's a punishable offense. I just think that's.
I'm actually
out of-
trying very hard not to be punishing here.
No.
There are much more extreme
So, all right,
responses.
once I find these eastern red cedars and I plant, do I need to check with you or anyone else or before
I
it happens?
check in with
Yes.
Mike, and you can go out and find,
Just spot the
Yep.
location, that's
Yeah,
really
we
all we
can-
need.
yeah,
I can flag a
I'm
location.
sorry, I don't hear well.
if you just meet with Mike on the site, and he'll help you pick locations for them.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
May these be considered as a donation to the town, and Mr. McCarthy use them as a tax deductible towards his taxes for next year?
I can't speak to tax questions. That's not,
Out of our.
that's beyond
out of
our,
domain.
I don't know. But I'm trying to be reasonable here. There, the other option can be an enforcement order, and I really don't want to go there. However, you cut at least 30 feet into a resource area, and we can't look the other way. So if you will agree to
Why do you
plant,
guys look the other way when Madison does it?
I beg your pardon, who is that?
Somebody online that just unmuted themselves and remuted themselves. Jeffrey's
Would you
iPhone.
identify yourself and say that again? I didn't hear what you said. No? Okay.
You guys talk to Ed.
You're breaking up. We can't hear you.
Name and address, and then you can make your statement if you like.
My name is Jeff.
There appears to be a bad connection. Can't really hear anything.
We can't hear you. Well, all right, so I want to see 4 cedars planted there. I don't care where you get them. I don't care who pays for them. And I would like you to meet with Mike on the site and mark where they're going to go. And then we're done. And then we will go under the management plan that has been prescribed for this area, and DPW will be on a schedule. They have a very distinct schedule they will be following to maintain these areas.
Okay, so my question to you is this. So going forward, I still work with the trail group. I've been staying working with them regularly, and we routinely go into conservation areas and wetland areas. And how am I to know if that's permitted? I know I'd asked Ned a couple of times. I said, do you get permits for this?
Ned is very good at knowing when a permit is needed. So if you have any question about whether or not you may be in a resource area, check with Ned.
I was working with Ned, and that's, and here I am. So my
Well, I
question to
think-
you is, when I asked Ned, when do you have permits for these areas? Because I go in them all the time, as well as 50 other volunteers. So where I was grabbed for doing it here, I would like to make sure going forward that I'm not going to get nailed again. I mean, because really, I'm volunteering, I'm trying to
Well,
do a good thing and give back, and I'm getting vilified for it.
I can say one thing right now is what the Trails Committee does is clear trails. They
Yes.
don't clear large areas. Am I correct, Ned?
Yes.
So that would tell you right there, you're gonna be,
These are briars. These are just briars.
It's a
You know what, it
resource
doesn't matter. Yeah, this is
area.
gonna
So
go,
here,
I can see that. It's-
So we went through this. This was a classic failure to communicate. No one's to blame here. I think there was just miscommunications, a failure to communicate, a failure to close the loop. I think what's most important now is we just want to get this resolved. I'm just looking online. I'm not, doing something I'm not supposed to be doing for my job. Because I think if we're going to say plant 4 eastern red cedars, can he do 4 seedlings, which would cost him less than $20? Or we need to have some metrics as to what we're looking at in terms of the size of the tree. Because you can meet the letter of the law, I'm just Googling here, and you can get seedlings for a couple bucks each.
I think that's appropriate. I think anything-
I'm not going to debate it. I'm just trying to say, let's be clear, because, about what the expectation is.
Yep, good point.
About the planting. I'm looking just online, I mean, that you can get them all over the place. You can get seedlings for, for pennies on the dollar, or you can buy a Eastern Red Cedar, 3-year Eastern Red Cedar for $10. So, before we leave, and I think we just need to, it was just a communications breakdown, nothing more than that. I hate like hell to be punishing someone who's trying to do what he thought he was authorized to do to better the community. So I just think we want to put this thing behind us, and I'm willing to buy the 4 red cedars just to get this thing over and done with, so.
That would make my day. Thank you, you're very kind.
Would you
Hi,
like
Ed
to-
Camelio, Caswell Street. I think the solution is great, and I think Mr. McCarthy's acceptance of it is great. You should be careful, though. Red cedars can be 25 feet, 50 feet, and you're going to have people screaming because all the people on Dyke Road love the fact that they could see again. So you should specify.
Part of the management plan allows for vista pruning. So if in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, someone's view is obscured, they can come to whoever's on the Conservation Commission, and they will allow you, we have very specific
I just
ways
wanted to bring it up. I didn't know if
To prune for
anyone-
vista.
everyone
No,
was
that's a
aware of
valid
that.
point. I understand that. But,
Doesn't affect me. so-
in fact, if people had been concerned about their view when this happened, if they had come to us first, we would have made an accommodation to improve the view again for them.
Just, I think one of the problems is people don't know you or know you exist. The residents all before said they consistently called town hall, they called the, what's that thing that department that does all the work? Yeah, DPW numerous times, and they got ignored and dumped. They never, no
DPW
one
is-
in town hall ever referred to this organization. I mean, you can
Well,
see.
DPW and Town Hall are two separate entities. DPW is not.
Well, I understand, because I talked to them about what I was doing there, and they thanked me for doing this.
Yeah, no,
Like when I
they-
work at the Tower Ave Park, they thank me routinely. They don't have the staff to do this. So they
DPW
appreciate getting help.
is its own entity, and so if you're calling DPW, yeah, you're not gonna,
Actually, not to cloud the waters anymore, but the vegetative management plan,
is gonna be managed by DPW.
well, no, isn't it under the harbor master,
It
though?
is.
Actually, it is under the harbor
Under the
master,
direction of the harbor master.
but DPW will be doing the work. Mr. DeMayo is responsible for this area. So if you have any problems or questions going forward, either come to this commission or talk to Mr. DeMayo. Don't call DPW.
So can we?
Yes.
Come to closure on this one here?
Yes.
So, I mean, so what do we think? So here's and I don't, Eastern Red Cedar, 3-year transplants, 10 to 16-inch height range, $9.23, plus 58 cents tax. You can get them online. They grow a foot to 2 feet a year.
When they're young, they grow fast, yeah.
So, I mean, would that satisfy the commission, a foot to a foot and a half, Eastern Red Cedar, that's 3 years old,
I'm okay with that.
all right? Okay. So, Mike, I'm around tomorrow. I'll work with you, and we'll figure out a way to get 4 Eastern Red Cedars.
Okay.
That'd be a foot to a foot and a half high, and we'll get them here one way or another. And then
Great.
all you gotta do is dig a hole,
Okay,
all right?
Doesn't
Mike,
even
you
take a
have
big
my
hole
contact?
for a small
Yes,
tree.
we'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch.
very good, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one.
I just like to solve problems, move on.
Thank you.
We have one request for certificate of compliance. It is SE 42
Hi.
3038 at 30 Old Beach Road. I move to issue a COC May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes our business for tonight, and I move to close the meeting of the Marshfield Conservation Commission of March 19th, 2025. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.